Hey everyone, for today's behind the scenes, we're going to be doing a portrait photo shoot and we're going to be comparing the Canon 35mm 1.4 Mark II to the Sony Zeiss 35mm 1.4 lens. So I'm using the Canon lens on the Canon 5D Mark IV and the Sony lens on the Sony a7 III. So these are both full frame cameras. We're going to be doing a bunch of tests with our model Karina, and Lydia did the makeup for this shoot as well. We're going to be doing some chromatic abrasion tests, some backlighting tests, some harsh sun tests, see the color rendition difference, see if there's any difference in distortion when you put someone on the edge of the frame, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So we're going to get started on our photo shoot, and I really hope you guys enjoy today's video. Okay, so we'll start off with some kind of portraits like this. When taking close-up portraits, there's no doubt that both lenses are extremely sharp. The main difference you can see at 100% here comes down to the body that I'm using. I use a single AF point on Canon, which isn't always able to catch focus on the iris. As you can see in this shot, which is the case for the majority of close-ups I took here, the eyelashes are actually in focus.
Oh, it looks so cool.
I was only able to catch 2 out of 20 photos with focus on the iris.
Yeah, that's perfect. Love that, it's so pretty.
On the Sony, however, I used IAF, which was able to catch focus right on the iris, which is what I always prefer to be in focus. I also didn't need to focus and recompose as I often do on the Canon. The Sony a7 III had 10 photos that hit critical focus out of the 26 shots that I took. I wanted to try something with that house in the background. Can I maybe get you to stand just here? Hopefully try and crop that line out from the background. Maybe cover you. Oh yeah, that's cool. All right, so I'm gonna crop this one about here. Next, we captured some mid-length portraits with lots of negative space at the top of the frame.
That looks really cool. Maybe if you wanted to try putting your hands in your back pockets as well. Yeah, I like that. And a couple on this one. Yeah, I like that kind of hunching over, looks really nice. Yeah, that's pretty.
In this diffused backlit situation with a busy background, neither lens had any trouble catching focus. When we zoom into 100%, you can see a lot more detail in the Zeiss photo though compared to the Canon.
Oh, we have some
stronger.
sun. How good. Maybe if you just sit, just here on the... Oh, that sun is so nice.
We took some backlit portraits next at a wide open aperture of f1.4 while the sun was out. Neither lens produced any chromatic aberration in these circumstances or throughout the rest of this photo shoot in particular. This is probably because the light wasn't very strong on this day, as I know for a fact that they both do produce CA in some lighting situations. Next is something I get asked about all the time, which is color rendition and skin tones. I think both the Canon and Sony files look great straight out of the camera. I've also shared a before and after of the shots so you can see them unedited. The Canon has a warmer and greener touch to the raw photos, and the Sony colors are cooler and have more pinks. If you're interested in hearing more about the Sony versus Canon skin tones debate, I just uploaded a very detailed video about this last week. I'll leave it linked down below if you guys want to watch. But I share lots more raw examples of Sony and Canon images side by side to see the differences in skin tone, and also show you how you can color match Sony to Canon or vice versa in Lightroom and also in the camera as well.
All right, I'm gonna take some photos at 2.8 now. We've been shooting wide open so far. Okay. I'm getting your full body in this one.
Bumping up the aperture to f2.8, I felt like the Sony files were starting to look very digital, whereas the Canon files still had a nice softness to them, which I specifically love for portrait photography. This could be the other way around for you depending on what kind of photography you like to do. For example, the overall sharper images from Sony could be great for landscapes or sports, but for portraits, I definitely love that softer look the Canon produces.
again.
Let's move on. There's another spot up there. I love that little thing. That white thing is cute.
Yeah.
Try and get that. Oh my god, that's so cute. Let me show you. So this is a great time to bring up the bokeh with both these lenses.
Oh, that's cool like that. I like that.
The bokeh on Canon is slightly larger and also rounder. The Sony bokeh is a little bit smaller and has a more oval shape in some areas but also not in others. I personally am preferring what the bokeh from Canon looks like, and I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. From what we've seen so far though, both these lenses are pretty similar to each other, so I'm really nitpicking here when it comes to the bokeh. I do like what they both look like. Here is a different portrait photo shoot I did on the Zeiss 35, and again, here we can see quite a lot of round and oval bokeh, compared to another different Canon photo shoot where the bokeh is completely round.
Oh, that's super pretty. Maybe you can kind of lean back against it. The last aperture I'm going to try on both lenses is f4. We've got a really cool textured wall here, so I want to make sure I get Karina and the background in focus, so we're going to see what it looks like at f4.
Next up, we took some portraits leaning against a wall at f4. Here you can really see some differences in sharpness, with the Zeiss being just that slight bit sharper with so much more detail and texture compared to the Canon.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's really cool, just like playing with your hair. Here we took some portraits with the background far away from the model to see if there were any differences in bokeh. It looks like the Sony photo has more bokeh, but the Canon bokeh looks rounder and more defined. And here again, we can see that the Zeiss bokeh looks like it has more of an oval shape in some areas.
So I'm cropping this one just above your knee. That looks cool.
I'm really happy I got to do this comparison, as I loved using both lenses at portrait photo shoots in the past.
Can I actually get you to take a couple of steps out?
But I really wanted to see them side by side to see if there were any major differences. These photos just go to show how similar they both are to each other. They are both high quality lenses, focus fast, are very sharp, and have great color rendition straight out of the camera. Those are the most important things for me as a portrait and wedding photographer.
There she is.
There's the sun.
Well, since the sun is out, it
I
is.
feel like I have to get around this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect there.
When it comes to deciding between each of these 35s, I do believe that it really comes down to what camera body you're using. If you're using a Sony and want to get a good quality 35mm, I would definitely go for the Zeiss, as it's always better to have a native lens so the general autofocus and eye autofocus works at its best. While the Canon 35 does focus well on the Sony a7 III adapted, it's just not as good as having a native lens. I have made some videos about this in the past, by the way, which I'll leave linked down below if you're interested. Having a native lens to Sony will always work better, faster, and more accurately when it comes to focusing. And then of course, on the other hand, if you use a Canon body, then I would definitely go for the Canon lens. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed watching today's behind the scenes video. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments of which lens you preferred or if you liked one for a particular reason. I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below. And also, if you haven't watched it already, I also released a creative photo shoot behind the scenes on the Sony 35 and a7 III, so I'll leave that link down below if you haven't watched it yet. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I release new videos every single Wednesday, and I'll see you guys all next time. I feel like I'm a cowboy in like the Western era, like my guns. All right, bye.